Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dan Tony Sports. My name is Dan Snyder, joined always by Tony and Dan Beebe. Dan O'Shea's not here at the moment, but he'll be here sooner or later. We got a fun show tonight. We're going to quickly go through college football, going to quickly go through the NFL. Of course, we're going to get you set up with the Lon's GOAT update. And tonight we are doing our fantasy draft for basketball. But before we get into any of that, as always, we have our pigskin poetry. And guys, this one I want you to pay close attention for because you're going to laugh your A's off. Just when I thought I had football all figured out, some things happened to cast shadows of doubt. Like the Giants beating the Broncos, LOL, what? Or like the Syracuse Orange kicking Clemson's butt. The misery didn't end there, asked Washington State. Cal practically took the playoffs off of their plate. Not to worry, Cougars, Washington fell too. And Auburn also lost to LSU. San Diego State lost. Their chances are done. Group of 5 teams can't lose, not even one. Alabama rolled, Georgia did too. Penn State has risen, they're now number 2. This season has been crazy, but it's also been fun. Can Alabama lose so Penn State can be won? God, I hate Alabama.
Who doesn't? I mean, other than the state of Alabama.
Paul Feinbaum seems to love him. Yeah, not so Feinbaum if you ask me.
Yeah, I don't... football doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah, you want to know what else doesn't make sense real quickly? We're going to go on a tangent before the damn show even starts. Did you see that ESPN will now have Barstool Sports as one of their shows?
What's that about?
Really?
Saturday at 1 a.m. They'll be doing a show where they interview people inside of a van.
Barstool Sports was doing a show for somebody. It may have just been like a
They did it with
special.
Fox. They did it with...
But
yeah.
I'm not surprised. I mean, they have a pretty large cult following. I mean, I'll give them credit. They did come up with the slogan, the whole Saturdays are for the boys. I mean, they've done a good job. I'm not surprised that ESPN's trying to... I mean, ESPN at this point is trying to grab people wherever they can get them.
Until they start calling Christian Ponder's wife dirty names. That's not cool.
That's how it's at 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start with college football top 25 here. Just going to do the rundown. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, Penn State. As we are joined by the bearded one, Mr. O'Shea. Dan, how you doing?
Salutations.
I am good.
And when I said the bearded one, I know we all thought James Harden. But his beard's got nothing on Dan's, so...
No offense, I would have been pretty happy with James Harden coming in the door instead of you.
I would have kicked him out.
I would have just been like, really? How'd you find the place?
Yeah. Do you listen?
Maybe he is one of our, 19 listeners last week.
Yeah, maybe. I'm pretty sure I found out that one in China was Stefan Marbury.
I was going to say, was it? That would make sense.
Stefan
We did
Marbury.
mention him a couple of times.
They got me in the list of most underrated players of all time. Yeah. Let's give these guys a listen for once. All right, we're just running down the top 25. We literally just started with number 1, Alabama.
Surprise there.
No. Number 2, Penn State. Number 3, Georgia. Number 4, TCU. Number 5, Wisconsin. Number 6, Ohio State. Number 7, Clemson. Number 8, Miami. Number 9, Oklahoma. Number 10, Oklahoma State. Number 11, USC. That is USC.
Finally getting out of the top 10 there.
Yep. Number 12 is Washington. Number 13, Notre Dame. Number 14 is Virginia Tech. 15 is Washington State. 16 is NC State. Funny enough, 16 is also South Florida. There's no 17. Number 18 goes to Michigan State. Number 19, Michigan. Number 20, Central Florida. Number 21, Auburn. Number 22, Stanford. Number 23, West Virginia. Number 24, LSU.
Unwarranted.
Well, I mean, they beat the number 10 team in the country, so I understand why. They don't deserve it.
No, they don't. There's a couple teams that have problems.
And number 25, Memphis. Finally! Memphis cracks the top 25.
Well, I mean, they beat the top 25 team in the country. They should slide into their spot, did they not? They just played Navy, didn't they?
They did,
Navy
but
was
they should
25 last week.
right. But they should have been top 25 before
You can make
when
the
they beat
argument that-
UCLA.
You make the argument that Memphis should be ranked higher than LSU on that list.
Yeah, no, they should. I think Memphis should be in the top 20.
I also think both of those teams that are locked at 16 are going to continue to rise.
Yeah,
That USF team is really good.
yeah, they are.
A lot
And-
better. You know who else is really good? And is that UCF team right behind them.
Oh, of
that
course.
UCF team is putting up points, and they're holding teams to points. They haven't allowed a single opponent to score more than 23 on them this year,
That is crazy.
especially in college football.
But who would have thought that that Central Florida and South Florida would be in the top 25, but the Gators and Seminoles are not?
Yeah, you'd never. I wouldn't be your prediction at the beginning of the year. It wouldn't be your prediction almost any year.
No.
Can we acknowledge that the Big Ten makes up 3 of the top 6?
Yeah, we can. Wisconsin, I think, is underrated.
Wisconsin wins that division easily. There's nobody in their way to stop them.
I would have said Nebraska, but
Right.
pretty sure Ohio State just showed that Nebraska can't do much.
No, well, there was hopes in Lincoln, and there will be hope. It's just going to be fleeting for a little while.
So, top 10 teams that lost this week, as we had mentioned, Clemson lost to Syracuse, Washington lost to Arizona State, Washington State lost to Cal, and Auburn lost to LSU. Of those teams, which had the most embarrassing loss?
Clemson.
Clemson losing to Syracuse, you think was more embarrassing than Washington State losing to Cal, or Washington losing to Arizona State?
I'm going to say Washington against Arizona State.
That's
because
what I'd say.
They were almost held to a bagel. They were almost shut out. That's embarrassing on a whole nother level on a team that you're ranked very high in. You're going up against an Arizona team that's not very Arizona State team. It's not very good, but you almost get shut out. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say, "Oh, they scored 7 points and the score was a lot closer." Okay, but if you watch the game wasn't close at all.
What about Washington State putting up a giant 3 on Cal?
I can
Falk.
see Cal being more likely to happen.
Luke Falk throwing 5 interceptions.
Well, he did his best Roethlisberger impression.
Okay, yeah, I mean, actually, the
No one's having a worse week than Falk other than Al Michaels.
I
You
just
say that?
I don't know. Odell Beckham might be having a pretty bad week.
I was just shouting out all. Obviously, you didn't hear about that.
Oh, I heard about it.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Aaron Rodgers.
Just making sure.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers
Al
having a pretty bad
Michaels,
week.
Harvey Weinstein comment that he thought he could get away with on national television.
I didn't hear this.
Oh,
What did
he said
say?
the Giants were having the worst week, or having the worst week other than Harvey Weinstein.
You can't say that.
Chuckles was sitting
Oh
next
my
to me,
God.
fading out. He's passed out. He just had surgery this weekend, and he's falling asleep. And he thought it was something he heard, like he made up in his dream, until my friend Dave behind us goes, "Wow!" And he's like, "Oh no, he really thought he could say that."
That's great. We're gonna get to this in a little bit, but my disappointed for the week, I have Luke Falk, 5 interceptions, 0 touchdowns versus Cal, and then I literally have, what is he, Big Ben? I literally have that written.
It was a very good impression of it. It didn't help Falk's draft stock
No,
in a year that's going to be loaded with quarterbacks. It doesn't help you.
especially when he is of those quarterbacks, he's the most accurate. He's the one that stands in the pocket the best. He's the one that's best at reading the defenses,
Except for this.
except for Cal, apparently. All right.
But, we were talking about this right before we started. This is what makes college football the entertainment factor it does.
Absolutely.
This is the proof that everybody says the adage, any given Sunday, any game, you can't possibly think too far ahead. Because if you think too far ahead or you're not prepared mentally for the opponent you go up against, whether it be Syracuse or Arizona State, you can get caught. So you better be on your toes at all possible times in college football because unlike other sports, one loss can end your season.
And how about this?
True.
What I saw from this is actually pretty shocking. Auburn fell 11 spots, losing to LSU, a team that's been in the top 25 for almost the entire season. Clemson only drops 5 spots, losing to an unranked Syracuse.
It's kind of baffling. I have some questions on how the top 25 puts their list together.
I just don't understand what is going on. But yeah, Auburn drops 11 spots, losing to LSU in a close game, whereas Clemson only drops 5, losing to a team that was 500.
And they get to stay in the top 10.
Yeah, and they get to stay in the top 10. USC gets bounced all the way to 15 after they lost to Washington State, who was ranked in the top 10.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
There's no rhyme or reason to how this gets put out. I'm assuming that most of these lists are made where people are coming off their hangover off the weekend.
Probably.
That's the only justification for this nonsense that I can attribute.
All right, let's quickly go through and talk about our teams. Penn State was off. They move up to number 2. Nothing to report there, except I'm shocked that they're not in the bottom 100 or bottom 10. Because the NCAA, for whatever reason, and I know the reason, hates Penn State. But anyways,
there's a glaring reason if you look through their history.
Yeah,
but it's unjustified with this team. This team is good enough, and they need to be. They should be at 2.
Absolutely, and so we're gonna
I'll go quickly to mine.
Yeah.
Ohio State, nothing really to report. Strong showing to see Ohio State still keep firing on these cylinders, especially at home or on the road. They had a very long stretch being at home. So, going into Lincoln, solid win.
Have you seen JT Barrett's stats?
No.
They are crazy.
Yeah, they're crazy because of the system he's in, okay? Anyone that's looking at JT Barrett's stats understand that they're inflated because of the system that he plays in. This man is a wide receiver or tight end at best in the NFL, okay? Nobody... Unless the Browns take him as their quarterback because they think it's going to make sense.
He's got like 1,800 yards, 27 touchdowns, 1 interception, something crazy.
Yeah, but again, inflated stats. Also, look who he's played in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, he played Army.
Yeah, the test is going to come their next game. They're off this week, but thank God they're off the week before they have to play Penn State. That's all I have to say. If that's what the situation is, then fine. I mean, scheduling couldn't have worked out better.
Whereas arrested Penn State gets a team that just went to overtime with Indiana, who's hurt at quarterback, stumbling into their stadium, ready to rip them apart.
Where are they right now?
Who?
The team I don't talk about.
That team up north, they're number 19. Behind Michigan State.
If they lose this weekend, they're out of the top 25.
Absolutely. Because
you can't get taken by Indiana into overtime.
They should have... Dan, Baby, and I were watching that game. Did you watch the Indiana game?
I watched a good portion of it.
In the fourth quarter... Was it the fourth quarter or was it overtime when they... It was overtime. They ran a run play, and then they ran the same exact play. And both times, the Michigan defensive line just crashed down to the center. If they run that play again and have their quarterback keep it and roll in, he walks into the end zone. Run that play again, give it to the quarterback, he walks into the end zone. And then what's going to happen? Go for 2, because what do you have to lose at that point? You're in overtime with the number 9 or the number whatever team they were at the time. You're not supposed to be there. All right.
Play calling.
It was bad play calling. And then they expect it to be a run. Then you just hit the running back out of the backfield in the front corner of the end zone. If you catch it, great, you beat them. If you don't, you lost to a ranked team by 1 in overtime in a game that you should have been beat by 25 points.
Especially Indiana. They would have taken that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, nothing really to report. Until Ohio State starts getting to play their teams, it's hard to really say anything other than they're still keeping the foot on the gas and they're still doing what they have to do. So I'm all for it. Keep it going. We're going to find out who's who next week.
Absolutely. All right, Dano. I'm going to call you Dano from now on.
Okay.
You're Dano.
I guess we did semi-okay running the ball, but without a passing game, there's just not much happening with the Ducks offense. Good news, Justin Herbert is participating in drills, so he's looking like he might come back earlier than expected.